This video is for the people that get a little bit clingy in the early stages of dating, a little bit overly attached in a way that drives potential partners away. We're going to be talking about how to basically keep your cool in the early stages of dating, how to not repel the other person by doing too much. The first thing that I think is really important is you have to decide what your boundaries are ahead of time, before the relationship actually starts. This is actually why in the connection course, the very first lesson is a self-assessment to gain a better understanding of your own boundaries, red, green, and yellow flags, and your specific strengths and weaknesses. Because it's very hard to stick to your boundaries if you're not very clear on what they are before the situation actually arises. There are different types of boundaries. There are obviously sexual boundaries. There are physical boundaries, like literally how close you want people to get in your space. There are emotional boundaries. There are time-related boundaries, like how much time you want to spend with people, whether you expect them to be on time. There are financial boundaries, like who pays for different things, how you share things. So you need to know before you go into dating what your boundaries are. That's not to say that there isn't a little bit of flexibility there. You know, like if it's really important for you that people are on time and your date comes 5 minutes late, you can have a little bit of wiggle room versus if your date comes 35 minutes late. But if you're not aware what your boundaries are, when they get broken, you're not even going to realize it. And not only do you need to know what your boundaries are, but you need to know if this person does this, here's how I will react. So for example, if somebody comes to our date 15 minutes late, I need to respond by explaining that timeliness is important to me. Or if a person still hasn't come after half an hour, I'm going to let them know that I unfortunately need to leave. Right? Like these are just examples. Obviously tailor them to your specific boundaries and to your specific way of communicating. But this is important because in the future, if somebody crosses a line, you need to hold yourself accountable to doing what you said you would do. Something else that I think is necessary in order to keep your cool in dating is you need to think strategically, not just emotionally. Now, in DBT, the wise mind is a combination of both reason and emotion. Wisdom is comprised of both. It's not one or the other that's better. But if you're watching this video, I could probably wager a guess that you're very heavily on the emotional side in dating and not so much on the reasonable, logical side. So in order to be in that midpoint of wisdom, you need to balance out that emotionality with some rationality. For example, let's say that you had a date with someone and then you were texting and they stopped responding to you. Emotionally, you might feel the urge to double text them, to say, no, I'm gonna get a response out of them because it feels so sucky to not be responded to. Maybe they just forgot about me. I'm gonna feel so good when they respond. But what if instead of thinking emotionally, you were to balance it out with a little bit of rationality and think about this long term and say, okay, it's possible that they just forgot about my message. If that's the case, they'll get back to me in the next couple days. Another possibility is that they don't value this relationship so much, so they don't care to respond. If that's the case, it's also not worth double texting them. So what I decide to do is to instead give it a few days, and if in a few days they still haven't responded to me, check in with them very honestly and say, hey, I would love to see you next week. Are you interested? Or alternatively, you could say, hey, I get the sense you're not really invested in this. I wish you the best. Again, there's no right or wrong answer, but you do have to think a little bit more strategically than just emotionally vomiting onto the other person. Now, whether you're in the earlier or later stages of a relationship, I think all couples could benefit from today's sponsor, the Paired app. The Paired app is a really fun way for couples to bond, to gain intimacy, connection, to get to know each other better, to have difficult conversations that are harder to do when you're face-to-face rather than through an app. They have a lot of different games, exercises, quizzes. So every day you get new questions, new games to try out. You get to see your timeline of how your relationship has been, all the major milestones in terms of like anniversaries, birthdays, and so forth. Paired tailors your exercises based on your specific circumstances. So like if you're married, if you're cohabitating, if you have children, and it just feels really warm inside when you open up your partner's answers through the app and see what they had to say about these really intimate parts of your relationship. Let's see. What made you fall in love with Nikolai? She's the whole enchilada. You can connect even when you're not in the same room, which I think is a really valuable way to use technology to enhance relationships in this day and age. It can be something that you just embed in your day-to-day schedule, whether you do it first thing in the morning or in the afternoon, right before bed. just a little way to engage with your partner in thinking about each other and communicating better about things that otherwise would probably go unsaid. I mean, not a lot of people have such a designated time in their life to check in with their partner about things that are so deep. So whether you're in the earlier stages of a relationship or the later stages of a relationship, I think this is a wonderful app for deepening that intimacy and connection. If you click on the link below in the pinned comment and the description box, you will get a free trial for 7 days and 25% off of a premium subscription. So definitely check it out if you want to deepen your relationship and your connection. Thank you so much to Paired. So back to the video. What about when you're feeling jealous? Because for a lot of people who can't keep their cool in the early stages of dating, a lot of it boils down to jealousy. Now in DBT, there's a technique called opposite action. So every emotion has an emotion urge associated with it, an urge of like something you want to do when you feel that emotion. The opposite action is the opposite of that urge. The opposite action is a good thing to do when the emotion you're feeling doesn't really fit the facts, and or it's not effective to act upon. Now, it's possible that you're feeling jealous for irrational reasons, that it doesn't fit the facts. But regardless, whether you're jealous out of reasonable reasons or not, it is almost never a good idea to express jealousy. And the reason for that is that when you express jealousy to another person, it basically confirms in their brain that they have something to be worried about. So they might on some level think, she feels threatened by this person. Maybe she's got something to feel threatened about. Or they might even like it. They might want to stoke the flames of that jealousy. Or it might drive them away. It might make them feel like, oh no, I don't like this, she's too clingy. So jealousy is almost never effective to act upon in order to meet your goals, which means you should almost always respond to jealousy with the opposite action. So when you're feeling jealous, the emotion urge is usually to fight your partner, to fight the person you're jealous of, to drive distance between them, to cling to your partner to get them to spend as much time with you. What's the opposite of that? Let them free. Let them do whatever they want. Express goodwill and kindness to both them and the object of your jealousy. Because what's going to happen then? Either turns out you have nothing to be worried about and now your relationship's not even struggling because of it, or this person was going to leave you. They were going to betray you or stray from you in some way. And now you know sooner rather than later. So every time you feel jealous, ask yourself, what is the opposite of the urge that I have right now? And try to do it. It's going to be really hard, but hopefully your relationship and your well-being will be the better off for it. My last tip for you, if you struggle with keeping your cool, is get in the habit of practicing delayed gratification and feeling how good it is, observing the rewards. Delayed gratification is when you prioritize feeling better in the long run over feeling good in the short term. It might feel good in the short term to triple, quadruple text somebody because you want that instant gratification of their response. But is it going to feel good in the long term when you've sent them 16 messages and they still haven't gotten back to you? No, it's going to feel much, much worse then. Or what about if you are really sure that you want a child and the other person is really sure that they don't? It might feel good in the short term to stay together. Long term will probably come up across a lot of friction. When you get in the habit of approaching relationships in terms of long-term rewards rather than short-term rewards, it feels so good. And the more you can practice this, it's kind of like a muscle. The stronger you'll get at it. And the rewards will feel so fulfilling to you that prioritizing instant gratification just won't be appealing to you anymore. So give it a try. Try a little experiment. Instead of doing instant gratification in whatever relationship you're starting out, try delayed gratification and see how it turns out for you. I'm willing to bet it'll work out better for you. If you're a clingy person, if you struggle to keep your cool, I hope that this video was helpful. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. And also, don't forget to check out Paired.